Okay, so I was really debating on whether or not I would actually review this episode. I should probably say my name. Hi, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and you are watching the premiere review of Black Lightning. This is the Resurrection. I was kind of debating whether or not I would do a video on this first episode because, I'm going to be honest, not a whole lot happens in this episode. I feel like this episode was supposed to be like a two-part pilot or just a 2-hour thing, and we're going to get more in the next couple episodes, but that's basically it. But I decided, you know what the heck, let's talk about Black Lightning. Alright, so in this episode of Black Lightning, it's obviously the pilot, so we're just setting up the story, but so far it's interesting. I like it. It's not great, but I imagine as we go on with the episodes, I'll start to think it's great. But so far, it's a good start, I will say that. So we got this principal, Jefferson Pierce, I believe is his name, and he's a principal at a high school, and they basically point out like how great the high school is under his administration. Rule? I don't know. Anyway. And, like, there's a whole banquet about how great his school is and how great he is. And, basically, there's a whole lot of, like, gang violence in this town. And it's like, they have this gang called the 100 Gang. Which I can only assume is a gang of 100 people, but who knows. And they kind of say that this high school is the only place where there is no violence. And you kind of see later that the principal like had sort of an unspoken agreement with the gangs that there would be no violence at the high school. So that's pretty cool. And so yeah, that's kind of interesting. Don't know where that's going. Whoa. What am I, an idiot? That's embarrassing. Alright. Hi to anyone new here to the channel. Anyone new to the channel because they wanted to see a Black Lightning review and you just stumbled across mine. Hi. Yeah, it's great to meet you. That's just a clock, don't worry about it. I'm not normally that clumsy. I don't know what the hell just happened there. Please don't think I'm some weirdo. As I stare into your souls as I drink a Pepsi. Yeah, alright, that was embarrassing. Let's move on. Let's forget that ever happened. So, basically what happens in this episode is Jefferson's daughter, one of his daughters, the younger daughter, I guess, and I'll learn names as the show goes on. His younger daughter goes to this club and basically gets in some hot water with the gang. And this one gang member just goes to the school, tries to assault her, and almost pulls a gun. Luckily Jefferson's in there and he gets in and he like stops the situation. He's this big effing dude. And we'll see why in a little bit. Don't worry, I'm getting there. And so this is kind of the first act of violence under his principality. I don't know what you would call it. Like, I guess administration. We'll just say administration. So yeah. And so basically what happens is basically things kind of escalate with this gang member, and I'm not exactly sure why. So basically at the club, he's hitting on this girl, and everything's, I guess it's going okay, and then he gets in some trouble with his boss, and the boss is like, you know what, you two are gonna work overtime for me. And the girl's like, whoa, 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 I just met this dude, I want out of here. And she ends up like kicking him in the nuts at some point, and she's out. She gets out of there. Like they kind of screw with her a little bit, but she gets out of there, and for all intents and purposes, she's out. She's done with that, and so it's like, okay, well, what's happening next? It's like, okay, well, that's just a thing that happened. Let's move on. But no, the gang member that was hitting on her comes back. He's like, yo, now you're my girl. You have to help this. I think excuse me if I'm butchering this entire plot because I'm not entirely sure what happened. This is the part that's kind of confusing is what is this guy's motivation? But maybe you guys can tell me that in the comment section down below. So yeah. And that's when Jefferson comes in, stops him, and he's like, hey, you don't want to do this. There's even like a line, it's like, the police are already on their way, and they'll shoot your ass just for fun. Which is an interesting line. It's a badass line, to be sure. But later, that gang member comes back, takes both daughters of Jefferson, and this is where, basically, throughout the entire episode, they've been seeding this thing about Black Lightning, this superhero, that kind of disappeared 9 years ago. And obviously Jefferson is Black Lightning. That's not a spoiler. But throughout this episode, it's basically been a resurrection of this Black Lightning superhero. You know, there's like one instance, he saves his daughter at the club without anyone really realizing it was him. Like, he turns out all the lights and uses his like electricity and stuff. Excuse me, jeez. And then, when everyone is escaping from the club, the police show up, and it's while Jefferson is walking out, and they basically attack him, and like they tase him, and he basically takes the tasers and shoots electricity back. It's really cool, and like blows up the car. And so now that's a new buzz around the city that maybe Black Lightning is back. And we have to be careful how I say this. Like, I don't want to accidentally end up saying Black Lightning is black or Back Lightning is black. It's like, anyway, I'm going to try to enunciate. So yeah, and he even says like, I haven't used my powers in 9 years. Why tonight? Why tonight did I feel like doing that? And he actually goes to like his old partner, like old superhero partner. Basically, like, I guess his Cisco, if you watch The Flash, or his Win, if you watch Supergirl, or his season 1 and 2 Felicity, if you watched season 1 and 2 of Arrow. Curtis, if you're watching more modern Arrow. And yeah, so that's interesting. And I think he's a tailor, but like in his basement is like their secret lair, which is interesting. It's really interesting to see because this is not an origin story. It's sort of a re-origin story. It's a comeback story, but we haven't seen his past. We haven't seen his origin story, how he became a superhero. So all that stuff is interesting. So yeah. So eventually, when his two daughters are kidnapped by this gang member, he immediately knows, I gotta be Black Lightning again. He goes back to his friend, and the friend already has a suit ready for him, like a new suit ready for him. And so he puts on the suit, he goes, and he kicks ass. In a bit of a rushed action scene, but I feel like that's because maybe it was supposed to be a 2-hour pilot, and maybe they had to cut stuff back to just be a 1-hour pilot. Obviously, I don't know, but it just it felt a little rushed for, you know, this first time we see Black Lightning. He's really, I don't know, he's not really shown off enough, but maybe that's just me. And he gets his girls back, he saves them. Somehow, like, he has a mask over his eyes and, like, it covers his eyes too. How do they not recognize that that's Jefferson? I don't get that. like, if my dad wore some ridiculous outfit with just a mask over his eyes, I'd recognize him. Like, it's immediately recognizable that that is their dad. But so yeah, they're being, held up at gunpoint by a gang member. It's probably a stressful situation, so maybe they don't notice, but I'd be able to recognize my dad if that. But that's the whole superhero identity thing. Obviously, they can't realize it's him, so yeah. Yeah. And then that's kind of where the episode ends, is that Black Lightning is back. And it sort of seems like one of his old enemies, I think the name is Tobias, he's back and he's ready to, and he's, from what I guess, he's going to be the main villain of this season. So, yeah. No tie-ins to the rest of the Arrowverse, because right now it's not a part of the Arrowverse. I imagine if this show does well, they will bring it into the Arrowverse, but who knows? Yeah, there was one maybe slight tie-in that you can go with, is that there was a guy on TV talking about Black Lightning, and it's like, why should Black Lightning be treated as a criminal when other vigilantes are treated as heroes? That is the clearest reference to The Flash. Because this is my big thing with Flash and Arrow, is that Arrow is always seen as a criminal, a vigilante. Well, I guess they're all vigilantes, but he's seen as a criminal and a murderer just because he's a hero and he's taking the law into his own hands. Whereas the Flash is never seen as that. The Flash has always been seen as a hero in his show. So that, when they say it on the newscast, it's like, why should Black Lightning be treated as a criminal when other vigilantes are treated as heroes? That you could take as a reference to the Flash. So yeah, but I don't know. And if they don't bring this in to the DC or the Arrowverse, excuse me, then that could just be a cool little Easter egg. But that's it for the Arrowverse tie-ins. Like, they don't tie in anything else, which is probably for the best. In case the show does fail, they don't have to keep it going. I'm sorry. So yeah, that is Black Lightning Season 1, Episode 1, The Resurrection. My overall thoughts? It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I like all these characters. It's interesting. It's different from other superhero shows because it's honestly a re-origin story. And yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. Excuse me. End cards are going to pop up right about now. You can click on those. You can follow me on Twitter at 7th Hour Films for updates on what episodes of Black Lightning I will be reviewing. I'm not going to review them all, but we'll see what comes. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.